All right, so here is the Cinevate Duzi video camera slider. You can see how small and portable this guy is, and you know, for the most part, it's great. It's perfect. So, but for me personally, I'm going to add a couple of tweaks. And someone was asking questions about removing this end because they wanted to add some O-rings, as I had mentioned earlier, but I never really showed how I did that. So in any case, I'm just going to go through the steps right now. So one of the reasons why I'm going to tweak this is this area right here can be used to place light stands, and you have a locking screw right here. Now, to get to the screw, you'd have to get in between these rails with your Allen key, and you know, you got these two rails to kind of mess with. If you flip this around, then the key's on the outside. Doesn't look as pretty, but this will be on the outside, and then it's easier to tighten up against any light stand. In fact, you can probably replace this with a thumb screw on the outside here. Again, doesn't look as pretty as Cinevate had placed it, but it would be easier. Another reason why I'm going to remove this end here is I'm going to put some O-rings along these rails. I actually only need two, but I'll show you that in a second. And basically what those O-rings are going to let me do is set points to basically mark where I'm placing the slider. So if I wanted to stop it exactly here, or if I wanted to stop it exactly here, I could do that. Another reason why you may want to do O-rings is as you're sliding this along, it's fairly quiet, but when you get to the end, there'll be an audible click. Now you could try to do that very softly, but you'll still hear a click. Especially once you have momentum in the slider here, it's going to be hard to kind of gauge how soft you want it to get to the end. And again, the O-rings are going to be very helpful as you're kind of moving this back and forth and you want to get to that perfect position. So it's kind of like markers along your slider. So let's go ahead and take this guy apart. So from there, we have two little screws that are holding the rail in place. So I'm going to just loosen this up. Now at this point, this should come off fairly easy. If not, you could take a rubber or plastic hammer and just kind of tap it out so you don't mess up the finish. But it should come out. It'll come out fairly straight, so you can't tweak it as you're coming out. It's got to come out straight. Oops. Okay, so we have this out, and now I'm going to flip this so that it's easier to get to this screw if I need to lock it into some sort of like light stand using this port over here. But before I do that, let's throw some O-rings on here. So I have these O-rings, and it's just a value pack. Comes with a variety. I don't know exactly which size I'm going to use. Probably the largest one. And let me get two here just to show you what I could do. So I'll put one over here. You notice it just slips on. You actually only need one on each rail, and they're going to be kind of kitty corner, but maybe it'll make more sense once you see it in action. So we'll slide these O-rings on here. We'll put this back. So you'll notice that the feet are slightly inward instead of being all the way on the outside. That's because we flipped this plate. But I don't think it makes much of a difference in stability. And it's also a lot easier to get to this screw when you want to lock it down to a light stand. And now I have my O-rings in place. So let me show you what that does. All right, so now that I have these O-rings in place here, you could see as soon as I get to the end here, I can set this up any way I want. And you notice I don't have that audible click anymore because it's actually, these wheels are touching this O-ring here. So when I get to the end of my slider, you don't hear anything. And another reason why these O-rings are helpful is if you have this slider and you're setting up your shot and you said, okay, you know, this is my first focus point over here. Again, you don't need two of them, you just need one. If you said this is my focus point over here, you can actually get exactly where you want this thing to stop. So you can slide this in a little bit more. So you can start on the outside here, come in, bam. Always in the same place. Okay, so hopefully that was a helpful tip. Again, you only need one O-ring really on this side, and then one on this opposite rod on this side. And it's also helpful again if you don't want that audible click that happens when you get to the end of your Duzi slider. Here, see that little click? Over here, nothing. So hopefully that's a helpful little tip for you guys on putting O-rings on your Cinevate Duzi slider. That works for me, and it's been very helpful when we need to set up these focus points and stop exactly where we want our camera to be in focus. And that works great, especially if you're either pushing in or dollying out, you know, so you can get perfect focus. You can stop exactly where you need to stop. And it also keeps things quieter when you're working on a set that, you know, when audio is important. That's it.